session, go ahead, I would say.
Just a second. So just to pump up the volume, and where's my okay? So as you can see, I'm traveling already. So
Yeah.
prepared, and yeah. So, and
You're the first one in an airplane presenting.
yeah.
He got his vaccine already.
A little bit of nostalgia. So yeah. Well, hopefully everything will come to normal, let's say.
Well, let us hope.
Yeah. Thanks everyone, and welcome to see many familiar names and faces, and thank you for being here, and having actually the patience to listen to me at this late late time of the day. So well, the top 5 ways to secure Azure resources is actually it's pretty unfair. It's pretty unfair statement. Let's take it step by step actually, and say a little bit more. First of all, yeah, I need to be in focus. Okay, so my name is, oh, there's a lot of text in there. My name is Sasha, and I'm an Azure MVP and MCT and AC Council instructor, etc. And I'm work in a company, and we have several partnerships and do security mostly, and Azure, but we do other clouds as well, and have been in the industry since since 80s, and then since Windows NT 3 actually. Top 5 ways. Well, yes, here is my Twitter handle actually. So if you want to get in touch, please feel free to do so. 5 ways to secure Azure resources. It's kind of unfair to say it is. Well, nowadays. Why nowadays? Because it's there's a lot behind it. It's a long story, and we don't have a lot of time, and we are speaking about top 5 ways. So why it's unfair? Because I'd rather pick every every security feature to secure any kind of system. So yes, some features bring some more advantages and immediate advantages. Actually, like we'll see multi-factor authentication, for example. There's a big advantage to start using it. But in this world, and we are now in the world where we talk about zero trust, and that's just an intro, a little bit of intro. So why zero trust? Because we are now completely in a completely different situation than we were in a few years ago, and especially as we go as far as possible as back. The overall picture is drastically different. So today, the old tools actually are not good for today's protection. And I don't know if you some of them might have worked with ISO Server 2000, 2004, 6, and Threat Management Gateway and so on. There were a lot of angry people when Microsoft just announced that Threat Management Gateway is not going to be supported anymore, that they're discontinuing this, but now we see that actually they have right. So why? Because the old tools cannot protect these tools, these types of attacks today, and why 5 ways are unfair or 50 ways are unfair. Actually, I think we should implement everything that we have actually at our disposition in to protect our resources. But since we cannot mention like hundreds of things, I just picked 5, and that I think are actually easy to implement and can bring the most bang for the buck, for example. And so why 5? Why everything? So in zero trust world, actually, previously we had firewalls and we have DMZs, demilitarized zones, and we have internal, external, and that was it. So we had one tool, we have firewall. So if we opened enough ports and to enable our people to work and to access some outside resources, that was it. But today, this is no longer true. So we actually are trusting no one, and the zero trust means that we have to actually secure our resources wherever and whenever we can. So that's why just 5 are not enough. And sooner or later, if you just implement these 5, you would probably get some data loss or have you will be breached. You will lose data and you will be attacked and so on. So in the ideal world, you should implement every possible solution that can help you to raise the security of your infrastructure or of your environment. Not just 5, but if you just implement any of these 5, compared to not implementing, it's a big win. So today we have to verify explicitly, and we don't trust anyone, and we have to assume breach and so on. And that means that, for example, zero trust access control strategy actually means that we have some signals, and we we make a decision based on these signals, and actually enforce and do some actions based on these decisions, and then implement policies across resources and so on. But we'll say a little bit more of that as well. And yes, you will say this is pretty boring. Yes, multifactor passwordless authentication, but yes, this is the most important thing. I would say I give it number 1, and it is simplest thing to implement. Well, simplest, yes, of course. It's nothing is simple if you actually have to deal with a company of 50,000 users or 1,000 users or any kind of company. But anyway, it's the simplest things to do, and it brings a lot of security to the table. So these are just some statistics, and that the passwords are weak link. Of course, we know that actually the humans, the users are the weakest link actually, because we make mistakes, and we make mistakes. We click where we shouldn't click. We install what we shouldn't install, and we read emails and click on these emails and that we shouldn't click on, and etc. So the zero actually before the multi-factor authentication, I would say I'd put the user education, and in a few years ago, worked for a large automotive company that had a very serious breach because of the ransomware, and because the user clicked on a link in an email, in a phishing email. That was the targeted attack. And that company lost a lot of money, billions and billions in a few in the next months and in the year. So they haven't actually gotten quite back to where they were. So it's not if something will happen, but if actually it's when something happens, you have to be prepared. So please use everything that you have, but don't miss the obvious. Don't use the multi-factor authentication or actually passwordless authentication. So these passwords are expensive and insecure, of course. And according to one research, 81 more than 80% of breaches actually leverage stolen or weak passwords. And actually, well, whether it's 99 or 97, according to some researchers, or if these are, let's say, 99.9, it doesn't matter. This is a huge number to be ignored. So multi-factor authentication actually is not a silver bullet, is not perfect, of course. You can bypass that, and of course, and it has some weaknesses, etc. But if properly implemented, it's really good protection. So 99.999 identity attacks can be prevented by using some form of multi-factor authentication. And of course, today, if we use passwordless authentication, then this is even better. Let's go quickly over the MFA. So how can we enable MFA using conditional access? This is the most versatile way of enabling MFA. It is a recommended approach. And then we have the security defaults in Azure Active Directory. So this actually enables multi-factor authentication for all users, actually. And it is recommended primarily for smaller business and with careful considerations, of course. So the conditional access is the automated way. If you have lots of users, then of course it's time consuming, and really it's not feasible to just click on each and every user and onboard one user at a time. So 50, hundreds, or whatever departments you are onboarding, these should be onboarded using conditional access, and eventually for troubleshooting, or if it is a small company, then per user account. So it's a legacy way of enabling MFA, but it's not recommended. But if you have like 5 or 10, so why not using that as well? So it's better to use per user account activation of MFA rather than not using any kind of MFA at all. And speaking of enabling MFA, there are, I forgot to post a link actually, but if you Google the Bing, or if you Bing to Google, then there is the there's the Microsoft MFA. There are Microsoft MFA resources for enabling and enrolling MFA in an enterprise and business. So there are email campaigns or posters and PDFs of that and everything. So download.microsoft.com. You can search there if you struggle enrolling your users. Then there are some resources and emails, templates, and documents and so on. So some marketing material and user awareness material that can help you, and it's really useful. Some FIDO keys providers that are supported by Microsoft, by Azure Active Directory, actually are these. This is not comprehensive, the complete actually list, but it's the list of the ones that I've personally worked with, but it's a little bit bigger list, and these are some of the keys in USB-A or USB-C or some legacy one. This on the far left is the version 4, while the two on the right are version 5 of keys, FIDO keys that you can use for passwordless authentication, or if you use Fashion, then there's Bluetooth versions and fingerprint enabled versions, and etc. And of course EWBM as well, as it's something that we have. Let's take a look quickly at all these features. Let me show you this thing. So come on, wrong button, and it's F11. Yes. So when you go actually to security, then there is also the authentication methods here, and some of them are in preview. So passwordless. First of all, of course, you have to have the multi-factor authentication enabled. But I suggest that you use password authentication. Passwordless means these are two methods that I have already enabled: find the two security keys and Microsoft Authenticator. It's very good thing. Microsoft Authenticator, it supports a lot of applications: Amazon, Google, GitHub, whatever you want. I have like more than 50 of them in Microsoft Authenticator. So you can use. It's pretty versatile, and of course it supports also the cloud backup and so on. So it is the right. This pops up. Okay. All right. So I thought I had some questions here, but anyway, Microsoft Authenticator, very versatile. Also has the it supports also the saving the passwords and supports the cloud backup. So I suggest that you use it. It's a very good app, and of course you have to enable it before you can use it, and you can target just some users and or all users, and don't forget to click save. If you want to use keys for that, and you can use that as well. So of course you have to enable it and target a specific user. I've just included all users in the tenant. You can then set up a few things here, for example, like allowing a self-service setup. But this is also something very useful. It is the key restriction policy that you can enforce. Key restrictions, it means that you can allow or block specific keys. So each key vendor has a good or a key identification. You can find these a good numbers in on the vendor pages. So each of the vendors that I've shown you has these A goods that are unique for specific products or product families, and then you can allow or block some keys that for a company, for example. Maybe you want to disable or block using some specific vendor that does not conform to your security standards, or you want to allow only specific ones to be used, etc. So you just add these a goods and just list them inside, and then it is as you add them to the list, and these will be allowed or blocked. I will just leave that and discard the changes. I just forgot to use actually. And then there's also what else? So how actually we can do that? Then there is the let's say. Let's try and Azure. Let's see how it actually, what we have to do. We have to use our let's say credentials here, and to log in to tenant, and then use the password, and then of course, come on. Approve sign-in request. Yes, I have to use the phone and to use approve the sign-in request on Microsoft Authenticator, since I've already enabled the multi-factor authentication. Then stay sign in. Okay, no. And what we see, this is a different tenant, so the same thing. Here it's a demo tenant, so security and authentication methods here is available, as well as FIDO keys, etc., etc. Before that, you have to go to your Active Directory, and actually, where is it? To your users, actually, and then you can see multi-factor authentication in here. So this multi-factor authentication has the information on about individual users. And this individual users actually, well, this is the method that's the third one, not actually the preferred one, since you will have to actually click manually on each user, but nevertheless, if you enable a multi-factor authentication of these, you will see it enabled or enforced. Actually, enable is where you have enabled multi-factor authentication, and enforced is where the user actually completed the multi-factor authentication setup. So in this case, let's go and save and click this and close this one. If I want to set up the multi-factor authentication for my account, I will go to myaccount.microsoft.com, and what then I'll have to go to security info, and very easy. And after I go to security info, let's see if I can get rid of this one screen. Yes, after security info, and of course there's a huge data center behind it, so it takes. Okay, so all right. So then there is the security key that is added, and in this case it's version C. Then you can see also the good of that actually of that key. How can we add it? Add method. You can choose authenticator app or security key, and after that you just pick the key. You can use the NFC or USB and so on. So once you register the key, then you will be able to use. So the point is that you need something other than username and password, and the physical key actually means that you have to insert the key, you have to physically touch the key because it has the sensor in there, and then therefore by acknowledging your physical presence and the key that is registered, actually you're allowed to go inside. So to log in, and that also applies also to Windows Hello, which is also one way how can we authenticate. Windows Hello is also very good because it uses PIN, and you might say how it's PIN better than using password, because when you register a PIN, of course you have to first use your password before, and then that PIN is actually tied to your it's not tied to the tenant, it's actually tied to your physical device, to your machine. So even if someone looks and sees your PIN over your shoulder, for example, then that person actually, the thief, needs to have your laptop, your device, to be able to use that key. To be able to log in, and then of course it's more secure because you actually never type your password. Then even if someone is looking at what you're typing, then you're never actually typing the actual password, but you're typing the key, which is unique to the device. So any recommendations for a key? Is a key without biometrics not a risk? I remember YubiKey announcing a key. Yes, they have with biometrics for a few years ago, and they've also mentioned a few months ago, and I'm not sure what happened, but there has been some actually announcements lately, some rumors. Well, the point is, if you have biometrics, then it's even better security, because then there you have your, even if someone has your key, then there's an additional layer of security. It's like not passwordless, but actually it's four-way authentication. So you have also your biometrics biometric data that is stored securely on a chip that is actually in a key. So even if someone steals your key, or if you lose the key, then no one can actually log in. But having a key or passwordless authentication compared to just username and password, then that's better, because you have to have something physical that you actually have to touch to make a physical presence on that key, to acknowledge your physical presence, and then of course you're able to log in. And yes, you because said that, and of course, yes, the keys with fingerprint detection on it. If they store, like phishing or some of them, yes, and some even more sophisticated ones that actually store your biometric data on it, and encrypt the data. In that case, it's more secure. And let's say a few things more. So first of all, MFA passwordless. It's better than not having it. And if you have a possibility to use passwordless authentication or keys or your authenticator app, then please use it. These are nothing is perfect. That's why we need to implement everything, because everything that I mean, bad people will always find a way. How could they go and get your data and get your tenant, and there's no completely safe environment. So it's what it's important is to know that we are actually we're trying here to ruin the bad persons, the attackers' return on investment. So, for example, let just take a look at the COVID situation with the vaccines. So, what we need to do is actually make it harder for bad people to get access to your data by increasing the cost of getting the data and increasing the time. Actually, hence, when you increase the time, you're increasing the cost. So, if you take a look at the COVID vaccines and formulas and trade data and secrets, then it's not the same if the attackers or if the thieves actually stole the formula for vaccine, for example, in February last year or this year, because today we have like tens or 20 of the manufacturers already producing that. It's too late. So we are actually when we increase the time to get to the data, we actually ruining the attackers' return on investment. So they're put off by if you make them harder to get to your data. So just compare two banks or two houses that have armed guards or cameras, or the ones that don't have such data. And yes, thanks, Ken. This is the list in the chat for available keys that are supported in Azure Active Directory, and then we have also I'd say conditional access. No tools, no tool services or features here are perfect actually, and we are actually what we do, we try to, like I said, to make it as harder as possible and costly for an attacker to actually get to your data. The conditional access is also something that's not too complicated to set up, and actually and it brings a lot of benefits. Previously, we had a situation where we had firewall, we have intrusion detection, prevention, some limited data to actually and information on which we based our decision whether to allow or not access for internet resources, and there was it. So that's it. So a lot less information and a lot less sophisticated attacks and a lot less sophisticated products. and capable products. Today we have different users, we have different conditions and states of the user. We have different devices, we have and all these data like for example, the data where the user has been previously logged in from, location, or what device the user used, and what was the configuration of the device, and was it healthy, was it secure, what was the browser, and so on. So all these things are evaluated in the conditional access. So in this example, for example, we have one user that has all the conditions set up, and all the data that is tied to that user, location, configuration, device, etc. Last sign-in information, London, let's say, or UK 5 hours ago, etc. And then we have device information and all the data from user and device state. And then, of course, the conditional access actually and UI, actually AI is machine learning actually is it's taking into consideration everything. So it's raising the risk of that login session. So it's not just is it some user that is actually known to the system, but it's actually a lot more. So there are a lot more information that are evaluated, and based on a lot more information that actually brings some sophistication, then we the conditional access or active directory actually makes the decision. So we have more granularity to block access, and not just two actions, block or allow, but now we have more actions. For example, block completely or remediate. Let's say install latest antivirus additions or update your antivirus solution, or let's say you're not allowed to log in outside the European Union, for example, if the location is not valid, or if the credentials have been stolen, then the last known location is Asia, and 5 hours ago was user login from London. That means that presents the impossible travel and so on. So just take a look at your Active Directory login data, but take a look at also the failed login information, and you will see that a lot of things happens that you actually didn't know about. So even people think, oh, no, I'm not important, so I shouldn't have all these things set up in the first place. But actually, we forget that behind this are not actually human beings, but actually the machines and automation that human beings actually have set up. So machines can process a lot faster and a lot more information in a given time. So we are actually vulnerable just because of that. So we can also, I'll show you after also failed login information too. And conditional access, of course, is let me where's my browser? There it is. Yeah, and let's go to the browser and let's see the conditional access, for example. So when you go to the security here, then we have also the conditional access information, and we have some policies here that can be on, that can be off, and then these can be report only policies as well. And these policies, well, we can just let's say set this one, have different assignments, and yeah, conditional access, of course, is not perfect, but it's better to have it rather than not. So we have assignments, we have access controls, and based on these assignments, we target these specific users and groups. We can have multiple policies, so we're not tied just to a few. We can have a lot more. But for example, we can target the specific users for this policy, like administrators in here, or exclude ones. We can target specific applications. In this case, I've targeted the Microsoft Azure Management as the portal, and then we can target also, we can define the conditions. We can define the user risk. We can define sign-in risk. You can see that you cannot influence on that user risk. You can just configure user risk level that is needed for policy to be enforced. But that user risk is actually determined by AI and machine learning. So why just 3? Because if you have 15, it will be very, very difficult to actually determine the difference between, let's say, user risk 9 and 10, for example. And you will have to have a lot more of the information in that, in conditions, and that will be very, very complicated. And so in this case, we are keeping this simple and efficient. So what is evaluated? User risk and sign-in risk as well, where this is not configured here anyway, but we can configure this as well. We can also evaluate device platforms. That can be Windows Phone, for example. Anyone using that? Yeah, I have still my Nokia, and it's working. We can define the locations, of course, any trusted locations or selected locations, IP locations, for example, and or countries, and also device states and filter for device. These are in preview, so I'll suggest that anything. Yes, that's sometimes that's awkward, and if you are in preview, you shouldn't use that these, and so on. Well. I just realized that I have 10 minutes, and I could have sworn that I've have 25 more minutes. But anyway, enable policy report only. I suggest that you take it to report only and see how it performs and what it happens. So if if you're comfortable with the with that policy, then you can turn it on afterwards. A few things to say more. It's Azure AD Privileged Identity Management. Yes, it's an overkill for small companies, and instead of going instead of looking at the slides, let's just take it to the portal. Privileged Identity Management makes sense for bigger companies, and it doesn't make sense for smaller companies. It gives you just-in-time privileged access to Azure and time-bound access to resources. So the point is that you are actually reviewing access of the users and determining who actually is or who consumed or who is consuming the privileged roles. And if you have hundreds or thousands of users, then you can see that, for example, out of the 100 administrators, actually 5 or 10 just need that administrative privileges. So it's extremely important to have as low as possible number of administrators. And of these administrators, of course, you have to have some administrators that are permanent administrators. But for every other administrator, I suggest that you just install, configure just-in-time access to Azure. So this is the time-bound access, and it means that the users will have their privileged roles raised for a certain period of time, and then lowered back to the as normal users. And where is that? Okay, so there's also not just quite the common. I was thinking, was it the Azure? Is it the firewall? Is it the role-based access control? Is it the policy? Is it, well, a recent case with a company that we're working with, actually nudged me to pick that one. It is extremely important to protect your information because of I've seen lately increase in data being stolen and accessing improperly. So why Azure Information Protection? But it's because you are storing your sensitive data in your documents, in your emails, and the bad guys, the bad girls, bad people will actually go for a lower hanging fruit. And by going to the lower hanging fruit, it means no one actually will go and take the machine gun and go armed inside the Azure data center, but actually the attackers will attack the devices, the files, the users. Users are always the weakest link. Users will give will give out files, will give out emails, will go unprotected, will lose devices, lose memory sticks and hard drives and everything. So these can be stolen. So if I want to attack you, I won't actually attack your company, but actually attack a user and its mailbox, and then from then it's easy to go and get to the corporate data. So because we stored the confidential information there. So once you get the information that is inside the emails and access to the emails, then you're good to go. And the information protection is actually ensuring that the protection stays with the files, with the emails. It uses the AES 256-bit protection, and the protection stays with the file. So even if you lose the USB stick or disk drive, or if you lose the device, if you're encrypted, even if you send it by accident to someone else, so even if you forward protected document, no one can actually read it except unless it's authenticated. You can even revoke the access to the files that you have given access in the first place. And of course, I'm truly sorry that we have just a couple of minutes, because these two things actually are very good. And even if you are collecting a limited amount of data, even if you use Azure Security Center free tier, even if you use Azure Sentinel for Office 365 that is free, and or for just a limited number of connectors. So let's go quickly inside to the actually portal and see that the Security Center is actually very good. Today you can have the AWS accounts, you can have GCP accounts protected, you can have hybrid, you can have Linux, Windows on premises, everywhere. You have Azure Defender. You have also Firewall Manager here and unique policies for managing firewalls. So it is the recommendations that the Security Center and the integration that they give that it gives. It's really nice, and you can see the actual almost everything that happens in here. So really and truly. Sorry that we couldn't see that, but actually we can see a lot of things that are, for example, AWS or Google Cloud Platform workloads protected here, and etc. etc. So especially with Sentinel, and which also has the user entity and analytics behavior, and that's a great complement to that, and of course, yes, we have 1 minute. Let's take a look at this. at some questions. Yeah, I'm sorry about the Nokia, and do you know why Nokias have why people bought the protective cases for Nokias? It's to protect the concrete and the floors, so the floors are not broken when you fall when the phone goes out of your hands. Yes. So if you have any other questions, I'm sorry that we didn't see the Azure Security and Sentinel, Azure Security Center and Sentinel in more detail, but probably there will be some chances to do that as well. Anyway, thanks a lot for your attention, and I'll give my my mic to Ronnie.
Does anyone still has a question for Sasha? You can quickly ask before we jump to the next session.